Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and today we are fishing. Well, we're not actually fishing. We're shooting caborias, because you can't really fish in this game. But I wanted to do something akin to fishing, so we're hunting caborias, because that's the closest thing we can get to fishing. See how that works? Yeah, I thought so. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Please take a moment and subscribe down below. We're on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider going to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you want to support my work. If you do, you'll get the Modern Entropian and some exclusive content. Thank you so much for your support. So, caborias. Yeah, I needed a little bit of a change from Kafaz, and I wanted to try out the auto-loot ability of my new pet. Because if you're going to have a pet that can auto-loot, you want to use the auto-loot function. And so that's what I'm doing. So far, so good. You know, after the auction, which I got the pet at, I've really been thinking about the digital economy that we live in this game. And I've been thinking about other MMOs and the way that those economics work. And they all work on a very similar scale. You know, World of Warcraft has its gold standard essentially, and I mean you still collect loots and it still produces items that you craft that you can then sell on the open market. Although because it's not real cash economy, you can make a profit even if you vendor trash things, if you're willing to have the patience to do so. This game is very, very different in that that is not the case. Well, another MMO that I play, because I've played WoW, but I haven't played WoW in years. I really, really got a bad taste in my mouth for WoW. I think that Blizzard got very lazy. I'm not going to go into ragging on Blizzard more than I already have. Suffice to say, I've not played WoW in years and have no intention of returning anytime soon, even though I have spent a long time in that world and really missed some of my characters, whose development I spent a lot of time doing. But there's another MMO I've been playing that I have not been able to do a good economic analysis on. And part of it's because of the way they designed the game. It's very, very well designed. It's very, very well put together. It's extremely story-driven, which is not something you see very often in an MMO. I mean, yeah, it's got all the normal tropes, the fairly level combat experience where the difficulty isn't outrageous. It's not always easy. They've improved the ground combat. It's Star Trek Online. They've improved the ground combat. The space combat is probably the best I've seen. It's much better than EU, I'm sorry to say. Although, to be fair, EU is designed so that multiple crew members have to be on a ship doing shit, whereas in Star Trek, you basically do the whole thing yourself. So I'm not going to rag on EU too much for that. I think that they could work on the space combat in EU. But overall, I think it's pretty good. But, I mean, it's Star Trek. So their entire combat mechanic was designed around space. And actually, apparently, ground combat is a relatively recent design addition within the last few years. So I can't bitch too much about their slowly improving ground combat. They did add a feature within the last 6 months or so where you can go into first-person shooter mode, in which case the combat is not too different from Entropia, actually. It's a little more active. You can still dodge and shit, closer to like a Virtueverse, but it's not. It's still not as complicated as like a Borderlands. But as I was thinking about it, I've revisited my tune there, and for some reason the quest I'm on is broken. It's probably just an issue that I gotta figure out. Maybe log on or off a couple times, and I'm actually thinking about doing a YouTube series on it. Because it's Star Trek, and it's probably the only way I could get away with doing a Star Trek YouTube series without pissing off Paramount, is because of the design of Star Trek, there's no real economy to speak of. I mean, there is, but none that I can really find. Like, there's kind of an auction house, and there's kind of a currency, and these are all things that are very important to me because, generally speaking, in Star Trek terms, I'm a Ferengi, right? I played a goblin in World of Warcraft. But it was basically a literal cartel where we you know, controlled the prices of bags on an entire server for like 2 fucking years. That's probably my crowning achievement economically. I wasn't even responsible for most of it. But the idea that there's an economic system to be used, and every economic system has its pluses and minuses. There's always an exploit of some sort. Like in Entropia universe, the big thing about the economic system here is that there's a whole bunch of really rare items. And if you can focus on them, you know, let's take this rotten meat or rotten clam, for example. 250% markup. What about this? 207% markup. And it's because it's a rare drop. And no one hunts these low-level mobs unless they're just grinding out skills. By the time most people come to Toulon, they're not here to hunt low-level mobs. They're here to hunt high-level mobs and get the bigger loots. But if you're patient and you know how to farm, you know, I've been farming freaking Kafaz skin or hide for months. I almost have enough to put on the market. It's got like 350% markup. And you all are probably thinking, well, it's not a very good return on investment because of all that time, but I've also gotten all the skills. I've also gotten other things. You know, I've got the base loot, which is honestly TT food, as much as I know a lot of people say, don't TT any... I'm not flying all the way back to fucking Calypso to sell a bunch of animal muscle oil. I'm sorry. I would lose more in oil than I gain in markup by doing that shit. And yeah, I could stockpile a metric boatload of it and sell it in 50 ped lots, but then you have to run the risk of transporting it through space. My only options are to use a smuggler route, which works most of the time, but pirates are not stupid. Or to hitch a ride on, like, the Normandy, which is fantastic if you can catch their flight schedule. They're not expensive. I'm not going to bitch about having to pay for the ride. That doesn't bother me at all. I'd cheerfully pay to be a repair crew on the Normandy for a while. Talk about getting some skills up. But I'm not home when they do their runs, so it doesn't practical for me. My only real option is to run a smuggler route, which I've done and continue to do from time to time. And no, I will not reveal how I do smuggler routes. Those of us who use them all have our own. And I'm not about to put out there on the interwebs how I do smuggler routes, because then pirates might be out there waiting for me or anyone else who decides to use them. But they do exist. And, I mean, I call them smuggler routes. They're not difficult. But the fact of the matter is, you're still playing, it's still a crapshoot. You're still playing with, it's a gamble. Because if a pirate does catch you, you're toast. And there goes all your shit. So anyway, I was thinking about economic systems in different games and how they work. And the MMOs are the real economic systems. I mean, you can come up with an economic system for a single player game, but let's be facing it, that's going to be fixed. It's going to be based on algorithm. There's not going to be any sort of real supply or demand curve because there's no other human element operating in it. And so the fact of the matter is... Oh, that was for my sword. What kind of an economic system are you looking at dealing with? What kind of items are you looking to do? Because the rarer the item, the more you can charge for it. In Entropia universe, there are certain crafting materials like these hides that aren't particularly common, so they go for good markup. And then you have the ridiculously rare items like that gun that was being sold in the auction, where it's so rare or hard to come by, it goes for a patently absurd amount, like $14,500 US. You know, 145,000 ped is a huge amount of money by any metric. And so figuring out how that economic system works, if you can figure it all out, you can actually create an entire industry around getting the items and controlling the prices, not in a strict sense of the term, but if you're the one with all the supply, you can control the demand. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if I know the way to making big money in Entropia universe are these Caboria hides, because they have good markup, they drop at a fairly decent rate, Caborias are not tough, You just go around killing Kaborias all day long. And if I make, you know, for every 100 peds spent, I make 150, then I'm doing pretty good. See, these have 274% markup. And if you've got the time and you've got the patience to build up the mats, then you're going to corner the market. Very few players go out to just farm items in this game, I've noticed. People will be out there looking for a drop, and they'll inadvertently farm shit, but they're not looking for that item. They're looking for a gun, or they're looking for a component or a quest item. Like when you're out there farming Shoggoths on Monria trying to get the chapters, or you're farming Shubs. Something might drop that has really good markup for you. But that's not what you're out there for. You're out there for the chapter. And once you're done getting the chapter, you're done hunting them. And so something that people with the patience to farm this shit can do, and this is something I'm actually looking at what the possibilities are. We just come in here with a group of people and you just sit there farming and just farm all your spare time. Just farm. And over time, you could build yourself up to the point where you're just not having to depot anymore. You know? Yeah, it might take you a long time to get the first couple dozen batches. Like, it might take you a couple of years to get yourself set up. But once you do, once you're in the money, and of course you use some of those profits to pick up like deeds or shares or something, that's the way to do it. Because then you're just living off the passive. You're out here farming the high markup stuff that no one wants to go out and have the patience to farm. You're building up the skills. Yeah, your skill build is slower than death, but who cares? Because that's how you make your money. I don't see a lot of people doing that. They're always after the globals, which I get. Everyone loves a global, right? I love globals. You hear that trumpet, the swirly goes off, and it is the most awesome feeling in the world. Or if you get the trumpet serenade when you get the Hoth, right? There is an amazing feeling when you hear that. And I think that's why a lot of people consider EU to be a casino, even though it's not. Because they're like, oh, we're all after the Hoths. We're after the Hoths. We're after the swirlies. Go for the globals. It's like, no. You can do so much more if you're patient. Maybe team up with a couple IRL friends. And I've mentioned this before, the player-run corporation. Team up with some IRL friends. Go after these high markup items. And get those passive income generators like the Crystal Palace shares or the Underground deeds. And just build that shit up. And hell, you'll be providing the crafters with what they need. The prices might go down a little bit, but probably not. There's not going to be enough of you to really impact the prices to any severe degree. Especially if you're careful with how you put them on the market. You don't want to flood the market all at once. That'll crash the price. You control how much you put on at a time. You know, if you've got 1,000 ped worth of an item that you know has 300% markup, you don't put all 1,000 ped on the market at a time. You put 50 ped on the market. And you wait for it to sell. And then you wait a couple days and you put 50 more pet on the market. Or maybe you bring it to another planet and sell it where it's a little rarer. And by doing so, you're able to generate that higher markup. Like there's an intrinsic risk to taking mats into space. And pirates are always going to be a thing in Entropia universe, even though they've really made it harder on pirates to hunt players. If you're willing to take the risk, or you pay for a courier to take you across through warp zones, then you could sell items that are farmable on Toulon on Calypso, where you're going to be able to charge slightly more markup because then people don't have to run and retrieve it, and you put the risk on yourself. You know, it's not low grade, it's lower key that a lot of people don't think about. Like right now, I'm sitting on these mats, right? This is what This is what I've collected today. Not a huge amount. 16 pack, 28 pack, 14 pack. None of those are large amounts. It's going to take me a long time hunting Kaborias to get those up to where I can actually make some money off of them. But just like as I'm hunting Kafaz and have for, well, since January, it's April. I've been on Toulon for 4 months running. It's a third of a year. Well, 3 full months. It's only the beginning of April. So a quarter of a year I've been on Toulon. And I haven't finished off my Kafaz, and I'm almost to the point where I've got a saleable amount of hide. But the markup I'll get for that hide is significantly better than anything I could have farmed on Calypso. I'm not saying that to down Calypso. Calypso's a great planet. The best part about Calypso is it's actually worth selling your 104% materials on Calypso, because the return for it will actually be worth it. So you got to take the good with the bad. It's all about what you're willing to do and what patience you have to deal with it. If you're someone who wants to go for the Hoffs, just go for those super high markup items, more power to you. You know, more power to you. I am not downing you at all. But for those of you who are like, well, I want to be able to do that, but it's a ridiculous amount of pet outlay. Well, yeah, you're right. It is a ridiculous amount of pet outlay. So go farm something that's hard to get, that doesn't require a lot of high pet output on the forefront, and you can just patiently farm the death out of it until you have all you need to make the money you're looking for. The thing about it is, there's an old saying, and the goblins in WoW say it all the time, and it's kind of a trope, but it's true. And the phrase is, time is money. Okay? And it is. Time is absolutely money. You can either take the time or you can spend the money. For every unit of time you spend, that's 1 unit of money you probably won't have to put out. Now, there is a minimum of each you're going to have to deal with, but the more of one you're willing to use, the more of the other you don't have to. And that's what it comes down to. I'm willing to do a whole bunch of low-level hunting in Entropia Universe. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I play Entropia Universe as a low-key game. I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. I'm just here to chill. This is my chill game. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've got other games I play when I want to be high-key. I can play Borderlands. I can play Portal. I actually have to do a Portal run here pretty quick. I haven't done one this year. I play Cyberpunk 2077 when I'm live streaming. That's not a low-key game. It's a lot of fun, though. There are other games I can play if I'm looking to really be aggressive, but this is not the game for that. It is the game, however, if I'm willing to just farm shit. Which, if you've ever been an MMO player in other games, if you played RuneScape, if you played WoW, if you've played Final Fantasy, this is a game that's pretty much centered around farming if you want to get ahead monetarily. And you can do it. It's just a matter of having that patience. That's all it is. And if you can have that patience, you will go far. That's all there is to it. No, it's not tough. Not in the classic sense, although for some people, including myself, having patience can be tough. But it doesn't require a huge amount of skill, per se. Not when it comes to the raw hunting. It does require skill when it comes to deciding the market timing, deciding what to go hunt for, deciding what creature is going to be most optimal for you, deciding when to spend the time so that you're not trying to compete with other players for shit. That's where the skill comes in. It's not the game, it's the meta game. It's the mimetic piece of it where you have to really think about things and think about what pieces you need to get where you want to go. And that a lot of that's just like other MMOs, but here it's a little more ephemeral because it's a lot more brain power, mental, rather than I need to go farm for this item that I need to go beat the dungeon. You don't need to farm items to beat the dungeon here. You need to farm items in order to sell them so you can keep buying fucking ammo. Which honestly is a lot more like real life. But I find this a lot more fun than real life. Don't you? I mean, shit. In what other reality can you just hang out underwater all day long hunting crabs? Because that's basically what these are. They're like hermit crabs. And on the bright side, they're not hiding in friggin' truck chassis. Fucking hermit crabs. Stupid Fallout. Oy. But I love it. And you do too. Okay. Take a couple more and then we'll call it. Kind of a shorter video today, but that's okay. I don't really feel the need to drag videos out if I've said all I need to say. So, we'll call it here. Maybe I'll just kind of log out in the middle of the water. As always, where am I? I do want to see where I am in relation to land, because I can't see shit under here. Oh. Huh. We'll take a swim. Okay, y'all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And as always, I appreciate the support. We'll see you in the next one.